There's no question that nowadays, with more contestations in domestic politics in Southeast Asia, that it's more difficult for national leaders to both manage those challenges at home, those domestic political challenges at home, and then show leadership on the world stage when they go to ASEAN summits like the one that just passed last weekend. But I don't think that these are really the key challenges for them in terms of managing issues like the Rohingya crisis in Bangladesh. There's very strong feeling about that crisis here in Malaysia, but I think the Malaysian government would probably have a very strong stand on that particular issue anyways. And so to some extent, these domestic political contestations, they're contributing factors to a difficulty coming to an agreement on some of these issues, but they're not the key factor. And I just say that, more broadly, ASEAN's biggest challenge is managing the rise of China, and also to some extent U.S. uncertainty about the U.S. role in the region. And the differences between ASEAN countries on that question aren't really to do with domestic politics. They're to do with very divergent views of each country's interest in the region. So Cambodia has taken the view that its interests are best served by becoming very close to China and managing Vietnam's influence by a close relationship with China. On the other hand, you have countries like Singapore who have approached this problem by really trying to hug the US even closer by hosting US ships and by close cooperation with the US in terms of defense industry issues, things like that. And then you have countries that are hedging, like Malaysia, where there's been a renegotiation of Belt and Road projects, where Malaysia hosts US ship visits, but then has also pushed back on some US activities in the South China Sea, and it's pushed back very hard on the trade war and on the US stance toward Huawei. But these divergent strategies, they're likely to have emerged this way anyways, and it's not necessarily a result of domestic politics in Southeast Asia so much as different views of each country's own interests.